Welcome to Business Relationships Matter Networks. Spotlight speaker today is Anthony Pearl of CommTogether. And I've known Anthony now coming up 3 or 4 years. We've been together online, and I've Anthony's done some work for me over the years. But he's been around a while. He's been in marketing communications for the last 35 years, worked at one of Sydney's top radio stations, 2UE, and actually helped take it to the top of the industry back then. And today, though, he's going to take us through and take no prisoners during his discussion. The title is The Number One Way to Build Your Brand and Become a Go-To Leader in Your Sector. Um, I enjoy listening to Anthony on his podcast, so I'm going to enjoy listening. Anthony, I'm going to stop share. You have the screen. All
Excellent.
yours.
I'm going to share. Now, what I'm going to do is I have a little bit of a presentation here that is not going to last very long, and I'm not going to talk about every word on it. So please feel free to read to it as we go along the way, because I want to try and make this a little bit more interactive and a bit more fun. So let's get straight into it, and just say, backing up what Ross was just saying there, I've been doing this for 35 years. And for 35 years, I've been looking in marketing and communications as to working out what is the best possible solution to all of the marketing problems that we have. And I can tell you that I've come full circle, really, because I started out in radio and now we're in podcasting. And I can tell you this is by far and away the most effective thing that you can do for marketing in your business. Now, I'm not going to read all of this here, so please feel free to read it as I'm going along here, except to say this, that there are three common problems that in the marketing and branding space: maintaining relevance, brand identity development, and building a brand strategy. Because you need your brand to be front and center for people to understand who you are and what you're about and to be heard. And particularly in this age of AI, where everyone is pumping out the same kind of quality of content from the same sources, you need your brand to stand out. And it is so much more than just the visual identity. The other big three problems that marketing faces is around positioning. So you've got to be different in the marketplace. You have to give people access and you have to target the right people. And more important than anything else is you have to align your values, because there's nothing worse than working with people that do not align with who you are and what you are about. And that is one of the biggest problems that most businesses face, because they edit their content so much that it's not really about their values anymore, and their true self doesn't come out. By far and away, the best way to educate and nurture your market is by having a podcast. So, and excuse my dog, who is just kind of deciding to have a little bit of a whine in the background here. Hopefully won't start barking. So I want to play, to put it bluntly, rather than having any more of this presentation. So I'm going to stop the share and rather just go back to the full screen here for me. And I am going to pick on someone so we can have a bit of fun. So I was listening intently to what everyone was saying in their little 30-second, 45-second bits to see who I might choose. So Sloan, I hope you don't mind, but I am going to choose you to play along here, because I thought it's way more fun to pretend that we're doing a podcast than
Okay.
to talk to you about all the benefits of podcasting. So
Yep.
I'm going to pretend that we've done an intro and we've done all of that stuff already, and we're just going to get into the heart of the discussion. So what I wanted to raise with you is one of the interesting things that you talked about was that people's dreams and ideas are so much bigger than often than their cash flow, because they really don't have an understanding of what cash flow actually can do and how it can actually work. So tell me how you attack that problem initially to get people to align those two ideas.
it is really having an overarching discussion. But first, before we even get there, it's understanding that the definition of income, from my perspective at least, is it is the most valuable source of wealth creation. In fact, it's the raw material that builds our future. So that's why it's important. And I think we understand that it can be useful to us. However, we sometimes struggle without understanding the bigger picture about why we should be taking regular action to look after and be in charge of our income.
It's a constant chase, really, isn't it? Because I think people often are just focused on what's in the bank account and not necessarily in understanding the true value of what is coming in, when it should be coming in, and then indeed how to put it aside and work towards something that's more aspirational.
Yes, that's right. And with that constant chase comes sometimes constant financial stress because we don't have the clarity that we actually need around our finances, Anthony.
I mean, what do you do to try and help get that clarity for people? Because I guess there's a lot of people out there, and I'm probably one of them, who's, looks at finances and kind of, the eyes glaze over in trying to understand it all. So how do you kind of work with many of the people that would be in that situation?
Look, I myself have tried unsuccessfully the ostrich approach. It doesn't make you feel good and it only works temporarily. So being able to understand that the money monster that we fear sometimes isn't that scary. And it's a little bit like a good horror movie for anyone who's fans of that genre. They never show you the monster in its entirety at the beginning of the movie. It's always a shadow or a growl or a claw or a tail or something like that. Because if they showed you the whole thing up front, you'd quickly work out that it wasn't that frightening. And that's the same with our finances. So I think actually ripping off the band-aid and facing into the numbers and using that to empower ourselves is the best way forward, because we need to operate similarly with the GPS. We need to know where we are now before we can plug in the details about where we want to go.
I mean, I'm intrigued as well then in terms of where people want to go. Do you find that when you're working with people that they've actually limited their aspirations because of their perspective on money in the first place?
Yeah, totally. And for me, one of the biggest opportunities that people have, and to explain this, most of us would be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we have the basics of life covered, and then there's the safety and security stage. Many people get trapped there because they are not feeling financially comfortable. And at that stage, what we're missing out on is, above that belonging, love and understanding, and then all towards self-actualization, whatever that means for ourselves. So I worry about for people the amazing gifts and talents that so many aren't able to bring to bear in the real world because they're trapped by their finances and they feel like there's not an opportunity to live a life that's maybe true to themselves and perhaps has even deeper meaning for them. So everyone loses when that's the case. So it's less about turning someone into a millionaire, and I can help anyone stack up more cash. That's great. But what does that mean in the context of your life, and really finding the value from behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important, isn't it? Because it is easy to just say, oh, look, this person has the yacht and this person has the lovely holidays every year going overseas, but that's not necessarily right for you either, is it? I mean, it's about, aligning values, aligning not just realistic aspirations, but aspirations that actually match the person.
Correct. And I help people sort of pull back the lens and look at that bigger picture through taking them through a framework that I use around 7 key areas of life. Finances is only one of those areas. So there's other things such as career and calling, and that could be our corporate career or our business. But areas that are a little more personal, such as heart and spirit, which means something different to everyone. But it helps us to understand the bigger picture about what's important, where we might like to grow, and some of the untangible aspirations that we have in life there as well. Super important to connect with those. That's what, well, making progress towards those sort of meaningful areas in our life delivers satisfaction and engagement for us.
And are you talking to people generally in terms of business or in family, or is it a mixture of both? I mean, how do you strike that balance? And then even within the context of a family, there's the personal aspirations. There's someone who's always wanted the expensive car, for example, but the other person who really wants the holiday or the holiday house. There's, how do you actually align all of those different ideas?
The reality is that we are, holistic beings, and so all of those elements of our life are relevant for us. And for example, I often talk about employee financial well-being. We don't get to choose which part of us we leave at home. Equally, the job sometimes comes home with us, and that's equally true when I'm talking with professional people or business owners, where there is those blending of those two worlds. And it's about finding the balance and making sure that every part of what's going on in your life actually gets serviced and we pay attention to, and bringing that sense of intention to what we're doing. That's so powerful.
I love all of that. And I know I'm conscious of the fact that we've only got limited time here. So I wanted to ask you one final question. And it's a question I like to ask on my Biz Bites program. For anyone that's been listening to that will know this question. What is the aha moment that people have when they come to work with you and that you wish more people knew in advance they were going to have?
Yeah, great question. I think that aha moment, it's slightly different for everyone. However, the biggest commonality amongst those aha moments is that we can step into, well, the driver's seat effectively of our financial life, and through that, design and define what our version of our best life looks like, and then chase that down through the regular actions that we're taking with our finances on a month by month basis. So we're enjoying life today, and we're also acting in service of a better and brighter future that's more meaningful for us.
Fantastic. I love that. Thank you, Sloan, for being a part of that and for giving over that. And to everyone here, that's what podcasting's about. It's about diving deep into conversations about things. We just touched on a little bit of an area there, and I really just picked up on one thing that Sloan had mentioned in his 30 seconds earlier on. And I think that's the value of it, diving deeper into the conversation. I think we have a better idea, all of us now, of what Sloan, who he targets, and the kind of value that offers. And we only did in what is about 7 minutes or something of that kind of ilk. So that's really what the value of podcasting is. And I'll leave you with this idea. It only takes 2 hours 4 times a year to produce a podcast that is going to get you in the top 1% of podcasts. There are no more than 225,000 business podcasts that are active in the world at the moment. There are 500 million listeners on podcast platforms and triple that on YouTube on a monthly basis. That is a huge audience to tap into. The question is, with all of the common marketing problems, why aren't you doing it? Because you absolutely should be doing it. And it's why, from my point of view, I'm lucky that the business is starting to take off, and I love doing this and having those conversations. The best part for me is I get to learn from all of the wonderful people I talk to all the time. So now it comes to the Q&A section. So rather than simply asking me some questions, and feel free to do that as well, I want to ask everyone a question. I'm going to start by asking Sloan a question and saying, how did that feel in terms of being part of that and having people listening in and just being able to respond in a conversation?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I think you made it feel really natural. You're obviously excellent at asking questions and keeping the conversation flowing. So I've been a guest on multiple podcasts, but I've never really thought about having one that represents my business. So that's a great idea. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What if I'm not so comfortable answering? Is that come down to great editing, or do you find that everyone gets in the flow in their own style eventually?
Everyone gets in the flow, and I think the key is that we work out with beforehand what we're going to talk about. So whilst today we didn't have that opportunity, right? I just literally picked up on something you said, but we obviously, have that discussion with our clients beforehand and say, what are the topics that we're going to cover? So, it is your podcast that we're building. It is for your brand. So it's not a current affair. I'm not trying to knock down doors and catch you out on something, or treat you like a politician. So it is about that. And it's why we actually do record in 2-hour slots as well, because not only is it efficient in time and all of the editing and everything, actually the best part is that when you have a 2-hour conversation with someone, and we've all experienced that, where you're together with someone for a couple of hours, it just gets easier. It just flows, and there's a natural part of it. And I think that builds the audience over a period of time. So, because the best thing about podcasts is you having a conversation with someone and the people listening in feel as though you're talking to them. And that's why, offering the co-hosting scenario that I do means that people can just come on as experts. They don't have to worry about anything else at all. You literally just show up for 2 hours, 4 times a year, and we do everything else: publishing, give you reels to use on your social media. All of that stuff is completely done. Nothing at all that you have to worry about. Once we have an initial strategy session working on your audience, we do all the setup and everything from there, and it's literally podcast done for you. So I just quickly, for anyone else, any feedback